All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyway, I was saying I ended up calling my dad. I called him on the payphone, and you got to know my dad. My dad is very, very cynical, to the point. I called my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad," I said, "I'm still sitting here at the airport. There's no one here. I had no idea how to get up to West Point." And he basically said, I can't say exactly what he said, but he had some choice words and said, "Just get back on the plane and come home." I was like, "Dad, that's not an option." I said, "I do that, I'm going to get arrested for being AWOL." So he's like, "Well, you got to do something." I said, "I'll figure it out." And he basically just said, "Well, if you can't figure it out, you need to come home." So got off the phone, and I ended up calling West Point. And I remember this sergeant answered the phone, this female sergeant. And I said, "Hey, I'm at LaGuardia Airport, and I don't know how to get up there." And her response was, "Homeboy, you flew to the wrong airport." And she's like, "Good luck trying to get up here." And that was all. That was her advice to me. And I'm thinking, it's not my fault. This is the plane ticket the Army bought me. I didn't get to pick what airport I was flying to. So anyway, I went. I can't remember who I talked to, but someone said, "Well, I asked about a bus." They said, "Well, you got to take a bus to the Port Authority and do a transfer and take a bus to Grand Central, and there's trains that you can catch to go up to that area." So I bought me a bus ticket. I remember I got on the bus, and I was wore out. I was tired. I was stressed out. I get on the bus, and I don't know where we went. We went to the Port Authority, which, if you've ever been there, it's huge. I get off at this bus, and I have to transfer to another bus. And it's not like you get off the bus and jump right back on it. This place is humongous. I get off there, and people are just going there, wherever they're going to go. And I believe my ticket, I get off, and I guess I look confused. This guy comes up to me, some street guy, and he just picks up my suitcase. He picks up my bag, and he's like, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" And I told him what terminal I needed to go to, or where the bus was, and he just took off with my luggage. So I followed him, and we're going through the Port Authority. And I remember going up escalators. We were all over the place, and I didn't know if he was going to take me where I needed to go. I just followed him, and luckily he did. He took me to the right bus, and then he just stared at me, and I'm like, "All right, I got to pay this guy." I didn't know what to give him. I don't recall how much money I gave him. I gave him whatever I gave him. He took it and he left. And you know what? I'm thankful that he did that. I never would have found that terminal in time. I would have missed the bus probably. So then I get on the bus, and now we're going from the Port Authority to Grand Central Station, which I did not know what Grand Central Station was at the time. I had no idea. Well, next thing I know, we're downtown Manhattan, and it must be around 5 o'clock. It's rush time. People are going home from work. I get off the bus, and there are people everywhere. It's just crazy. I get off the bus. I'm carrying all this luggage. I'm sweating. I'm stressed out, and it's cold. It's November. It's cold, like I said, but I'm sweating. I'm so hot, and I'm dropping. I'm struggling with my luggage. I get off the bus, and I'm looking around. All I see is these huge buildings. I don't see any signs saying Grand Central Station, and people are just walking everywhere. They're going to run me over. And so I see, I can't remember what sign I saw, but it said something about Grand Train or something. And I start going down these steps. Down, down, down. And it turns out I'm going down in the subway. And I'm starting to see some shady looking people lined up on the ground, just laying around. And I'm thinking, this can't be right. And so I turn around, I go back up to the main street. And I remember I walked up to, there was a traffic cop. And I walked up to him and I said, "How do I get to Grand Central Station?" He was pretty short with me. He just kind of like pointed, and like I was bugging the crap out of him just to leave him alone. So I just went across the street. I just started following a crowd of people. I was basically getting pushed. I didn't have a choice. There were so many people, and I just went with the flow. And they were all going to the same place. They were going to Grand Central Station. So I walked in, and this place was huge. There was people everywhere. And there was this board in the middle with all these different cities and times, and they were like flipping, and none of them said West Point. None of them. And believe me, I didn't have a ticket yet. I didn't know what train to get on. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. People were just rushing to going home from work. I stood in line for a half hour at this one window, and I get up to the window and I said, I need to get to West Point. And they're like, you're in the wrong line. You need to go over that line over there. They said the Peekskill line. So I go over there, or no, they didn't even tell me that. I take it back. She said, you're in the wrong line. She didn't tell me where to go. And I'm standing there, and I'm looking stressed, I guess. You know, I'm 18 years old. I look like I have this baby face. I look really I'm sure I just look like I was getting ready to cry. My name tag's halfway falling off. I'm carrying all this luggage. This woman comes up to me. She starts squeezing my cheeks. And she's like, oh, you're too young. You can't be in the military. I can't believe you're in the military. And at this point, I'm like, ma'am, please, can you help me out? I have no idea what I'm doing. I need to get to West Point. And she was so nice. She guided me. She took me over and she told me, stay in this line. She said, this is the line you need to get into. And then she didn't say where to go. She just said, stay in this line. So I got in this line. I finally get up to the ticket window, and I asked the attendant, I said, I need to get to West Point. She's like, well, the closest you can get is Peekskill. I said, I'll take a ticket to Peekskill. So I get the ticket. I get on the train, and there's all these people, you know, all in business suits, all these business looking people. So I felt really comfortable, and I was wore out. I was exhausted, and I fell asleep. And we're going, I don't know how long we were on the train, and it would stop so often. They would announce what stop they were at. And I think Peekskill was like one of the last stops. So by the time we got to Peekskill, it was completely dark outside. There wasn't that many people left on the train. And they called Peekskill. There was like 3 or 4 of us. Handful of people got off the train. I get off the train, and it's just this bare parking lot. People get in their cars. The people that did get off, they got in their cars and they drove off. And there I'm standing. It's probably, now it's around 8, 9 o'clock. I don't know. It seemed like it was late. It was dark. And I didn't know from that point where I was supposed to go. I didn't know how close I was. The only thing I saw was there was a couple guys standing by these cars, and I wasn't sure if they were cab drivers, but I walked up to them, and they were foreign guys. And I remember I asked him, I said, how do I get to West Point? He's like, oh, you need a cab. You need a cab. I said, yeah, can you get me to West Point? He's like, yeah, I'll take you. $20. So I said, fine. I jumped in the car. It wasn't even marked as a cab. It was just a car. So at this point, I didn't care. I was so tired. I was desperate. So I get in the car, and we're driving. I don't know, we're on the side. You ever see those commercials where the cars drive on the highway along the mountainside, real narrow roads? That's where we were going, along these roads. I felt like we were in a different country. And I just had to trust the guy that he was taking me where he was going. I kept thinking, he's going to kill me, drop my body off the side of the road, and take whatever money I do have, which wasn't much. So I had one hand on the door handle, and just in case if he tried to do something, I was just going to jump out of the car. He never talked to me the whole time. In fact, I think he knew very little English. So after about 25 minutes or so, we pull up to the gate of West Point. And, you know, I finally made it. It was like, I don't know, it was like 10 o'clock at night at this point. When I get off the gate, and I'm still not where I need to go. I still got to figure out how to get from the gate to the barracks. But I was an MP. That was the reason I was going. Military police. That's the reason I was going to be stationed there. And military police, they worked the front gate. So they basically said, oh, we'll get you a ride. I just had to wait there at the gate for like a half hour. They finally came and got me, took me up there. I walk into the barracks. Of course, everyone's laughing, call me the newbie, rookie, whatever, because it took me 12 hours to go from New York City to West Point, which is about, it should be like a 50-minute to an hour drive. So that was my first experience on my own, basically. You know, this little small town guy from West Virginia. My first time being in New York City. So any of you that are watching this that are from New York City, I'm sure you get a laugh. I wish I would have had pictures of the way I looked. like before. I got pictures of when I left, but pictures of me during throughout the this crazy adventure, I guess. But I tell you, I was at West Point for 3 years, and it turned out to be 3 of the best years of my life. And if you've never been to West Point, you should go and visit. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and I was fortunate and lucky enough to be stationed there. But ever since then, and I've been to New York a couple times while I was stationed there, I've never felt comfortable in New York City. And one of the reasons I want to do this video is Jeff takes photos. He lives in New York City, and me and him have gotten to know each other a little bit, and I wanted to tell him this story. So I figure he can watch this video and he can get a chuckle out of it. And like I said, I want to tell you some more stories about some crazy things that have happened to me throughout my life. One of the things I want to tell you guys about is the time that I flew to Disney World, or flew to Florida, and I tried out to be a Walt Disney World character. That was quite an adventure in itself. So anyway, I'm going to just wrap things up, and I'm just wanted to tell you guys about that. And I hope I didn't bore you too much. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Got any comments or questions, comment down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And let me know, if you want me to check out your channel. And I'd like to get to know your channel and to follow you in your adventures. So anyway, you all have a good night. I hope you had a good weekend, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good night.